The most secure vault on planet Earth is not in Fort Knox. It is not buried in a Swiss mountain bunker. It is not guarded by lasers or armed military personnel. The most secure vault in history was the decaying frontal lobe of a 30-year-old man lying on a metal table in a morgue in Jaipur, India. $190 million. That is not just a number on a ledger. It is the life savings of 76,000 people. It is mortgages, tuition funds, retirement plans, all vaporized in the span of a single heartbeat. When a bank CEO dies, the vault doesn't lock forever. When a stockbroker passes away, the money doesn't vanish into the ether. But Gerald Cotten did not run a bank. He ran a digital empire from a single, encrypted laptop. He was the only one with the access codes, the only one with the passwords, and when he took his last breath, he didn't just leave behind a grieving widow. He performed the ultimate magic trick. He made nearly $200 million disappear into the grave with him. But as the days turned into weeks and the digital wallets remained frozen, a terrifying whisper began to spread through the internet forums. A whisper that would turn a tragedy into a global manhunt. Did the money really disappear? Or did the magician just walk off the stage? To understand the crime, you must first understand the architect. And looking at Gerald Cotten, you would never see a criminal mastermind. You would see Jerry. Jerry was the kind of guy you'd trust to watch your drink at a party. He was mild-mannered, geeky, always smiling. He wasn't a shadowy figure in a hoodie coding in a basement. He was the face of Canadian crypto reliability. He graduated from business school, loved flying drones, and had an obsession with the future of money. In the early days of Bitcoin, the internet was the Wild West. Exchanges were getting hacked, owners were running off with funds, and trust was a scarce commodity. Into this chaos stepped Jerry with a promise: QuadrigaCX. Quadriga wasn't just another exchange. It was sold as the safe haven. It was Canadian. It was regulated, or so it seemed. It was the friendly alternative to the dark, anonymous platforms of the era. If you wanted to buy Bitcoin in Canada, you didn't go to the back alley. You went to Jerry. As the price of Bitcoin skyrocketed in 2017, QuadrigaCX exploded. Money was pouring in faster than anyone could count. Millions of dollars a day flowing through the system. Jerry was no longer just a computer nerd. He was a titan of industry. He was traveling the world, flying private jets, buying real estate, and living the life of a tech mogul. But beneath the polished surface of the website, there was a rot spreading in the foundation. Normally, a financial institution handling hundreds of millions of dollars has a board of directors. It has a dedicated accounting department. It has oversight. Quadriga had none of that. It had Jerry. He was running the entire operation from his encrypted MacBook Pro. He was the CEO, the CFO, and the IT support. He was moving millions of dollars of customer money into his personal accounts, trading with it, gambling with it, all while the customers saw nothing but a sleek, functioning dashboard. It was a house of cards built inside a black box. And the only person who could see inside was Jerry. He had set up the system so that the vast majority of the funds, the cold wallets, were offline, protected by keys that only he possessed. It was a security measure, he claimed, a way to protect the users from hackers. Irony has a cruel sense of humor. He was protecting the money from thieves on the outside, but he had created a prison for the money on the inside. He had made himself the single point of failure. And in late 2018, that point of failure decided to take a honeymoon trip to India. A trip that would end in a hospital diagnosis that no one saw coming, for a disease that rarely kills, in a time frame that seemed convenient. The death of a CEO is usually front-page news the next morning. But when Gerald Cotten died in Jaipur on December 9th, 2018, nobody said a word. For 36 days, QuadrigaCX continued to operate. Deposits were accepted. Trades were executed. The system kept humming along as if its master was still pulling the levers. It wasn't until mid-January that the company finally posted a sterile, text-only announcement. Gerald is gone. Panic didn't set in immediately. At first, it was confusion, then denial, then the realization of what gone actually meant. The company filed for creditor protection. The court appointed monitors from Ernst & Young, some of the best forensic auditors in the world, to do one simple job: crack the laptop. Jerry's laptop was an encrypted fortress, a digital vault protected by layers of security that even the FBI struggles to break. The auditors sat in a room with Jerry's widow, Jennifer Robertson. She had the laptop. She had the death certificate, but she didn't have the password. For weeks, the narrative was tragic but simple. A brilliant young man died, and his poor operational security trapped the money. It was a cautionary tale about negligence, but the internet is a hive mind, and it doesn't believe in coincidences. On Reddit, on Telegram, on the dark corners of Discord, an army of amateur sleuths began their own investigation. They didn't need the laptop password. They had something better. They had the blockchain. The beauty of the blockchain is that it is an immutable ledger. It cannot lie, it cannot be bribed, and it cannot hide. Every transaction leaves a footprint. The internet detectives began tracing the addresses known to belong to QuadrigaCX. They looked for the massive cold wallets, the offline storage where the $190 million was supposed to be sleeping. They expected to see a fortress of digital gold, locked tight, gathering dust. Instead, they found a ghost town. The wallets were empty. And they hadn't just become empty when Jerry died. They had been empty for months. The narrative shattered. This was no longer a story about a lost password. This was a crime scene. Suspicion turned into hysteria. The details of the death began to look wrong. Jerry had died of complications from Crohn's disease, a condition that is painful, certainly, but statistically almost never fatal for a 30-year-old with access to top-tier healthcare. And he died in India, a country notorious for a black market in fake death certificates. He had signed his will just 12 days before his trip, a will that left everything: the airplane, the yacht, the real estate, the Lexusto, his wife. He had set aside $100,000 for the care of his 2 chihuahuas, but he hadn't left a single note about the passwords for 100,000 customers. The theory of the exit scam was born. The idea was seductive in its simplicity. Jerry wasn't dead. He had faked it. He had surgically altered his face, drained the accounts, and was sipping a Mai Tai on a non-extradition island, laughing at the world. The victims were furious. They didn't want an apology. They wanted a body. They petitioned the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for the unthinkable, to exhume the body of Gerald Cotten, to dig up the grave and prove, once and for all, or what was inside that coffin. While the world argued over whether Jerry was alive or dead, the forensic accountants at Ernst & Young were uncovering a truth far darker than a fake death. They finally managed to trace the flow of funds. They bypassed the encrypted laptop by analyzing the exchanges Jerry had interacted with. What they found wasn't a master plan. It was a chaotic, desperate spiral of a gambling addict. Jerry hadn't stolen the money to run away. He had stolen the money to play. The golden boy of Canadian crypto was, in reality, a fraudulent day trader. He had created fake accounts on his own platform accounts, credited with millions of dollars of fake money, and used them to trade against his own customers. When you bought Bitcoin on Quadriga, you weren't buying it from another user. You were buying it from Jerry. And when you sold, you were selling to Jerry. But Jerry didn't have the Bitcoin, and he didn't have the cash. He was taking money from Peter to pay Paul. It was a classic, textbook Ponzi scheme, disguised with the futuristic buzzwords of cryptocurrency. He took customer funds and gambled them on other exchanges, making high-risk bets in a volatile market. And like most gamblers, he lost. He lost millions. To cover the losses, he needed more deposits. He needed the price of Bitcoin to keep going up. But in 2018, the market crashed. The crypto winter arrived. The value of assets plummeted. Customers got scared. They started asking to withdraw their money. But the money wasn't there. It had been lost in bad trades, spent on luxury travel, or burned in fees. The $190 million wasn't in a cold wallet. It wasn't on a USB drive in the grave. It wasn't in a secret bank account in the Cayman Islands. It was gone. It had been incinerated in a bonfire of vanity and incompetence. The Ontario Securities Commission released their final report. The verdict was damning. QuadrigaCX was a fraud from day one. Gerald Cotten was the sole perpetrator. And as for the exhumation, the request was denied. The authorities determined that even if they dug him up, it wouldn't bring the money back. The evidence of the fraud was so overwhelming that the physical status of his body became legally irrelevant. Whether he is rotting in the ground in Halifax or hiding in the shadows of Southeast Asia, the Gerald Cotten the world knew is dead. His legacy is not a vault of gold, but a monument to greed. He was the man who held the keys to the kingdom. But in the end, he didn't lock the door to keep the thieves out. He locked it to trap the victims in with him. The dust has settled, but the scars remain. For the 76,000 people who trusted a smiling face over a secure code, the nightmare didn't end with the official report. There were no refunds. There was no insurance payout. The millions of dollars that vanished were not just numbers. They were retirements delayed, homes lost, and futures rewritten in red ink. The QuadrigaCX scandal left a permanent crater in the landscape of cryptocurrency. It became a brutal lesson written in blood and money. It birthed a mantra that is now whispered by every investor. A warning passed down like a survival instinct. Not your keys, not your coins. The irony is suffocating. Cryptocurrency was invented to remove the need for trust, to replace fallible, greedy humans with cold, unbreakable math. The whole point was to build a system where you didn't need a bank, you didn't need a government, and you certainly didn't need a Jerry. But Gerald Cotten proved that no matter how advanced the technology, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And more often than not, that link is human. In the end, we may never know if Gerald is truly lying in that grave in Halifax, or if he is somewhere else entirely. But it doesn't matter, because the man who died took something more valuable than money with him. He took the innocence of an industry. He showed us that in the digital age, you can delete your history, you can encrypt your secrets, and you can bury the truth. But you can never bury the consequences. The keys are gone, and some doors are never meant to be opened again.